What's up, everybody? Final day here at Wizard World East in Philadelphia. I'm one of my favorite people in the world. Love hearing him talk at panels all the time. Dan Didio here. How you doing? You reached the end of the weekend.
Reached the end of the weekend, yeah. But you know what? There's still a good crowd and a lot of energy in the room, in the place. So it keeps you going. And we have one more panel to go. We do this thing called For Love of Comics every Sunday. And what it is just a general conversation with all the fans to remind us why we love comics, why we got involved in the business, why we love reading them, and the things that we always remember and enjoy the most about them. So today's a fun day.
Well, why do you love comics? What was the initial moment that you knew that you wanted to be a part of this industry?
I never thought I'd ever be a part of this industry. It's kind of interesting you say that. It's weird for me because my whole background and all my time was spent in TV. I did 20 years in television, and I used to work for ABC Publicity, and I worked in children's programming, and I worked for an animation company. And in all those jobs and all the times that I did work, I always found a way to get comics involved in this, myself involved in comics. I used to do press for some of the artists, just to help them out. I worked out a crossover, believe it or not, with one of all my children's stars and a Valiant comic, no lie, Second Life of Dr. Mirage, guys. And then from there, when I was at ABC Children's, we used to develop a lot of product. We developed Thunder Agents and Metal Men for animated series. And even when I got to Mainframe, we did a lot of work with a lot of comic stuff too. So I always found ways to get involved in comics in my other jobs. And when I had the opportunity to move to DC, I never thought that I'd ever be able to get in a position like this. But here we are now, 6 years later.
Wow, 6 years, big transition. Now, speaking of the rest of this year, we know Final Crisis is happening.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you anything about it. I think a lot of the answers
That's
that
good
come
because I
back.
don't have any answers.
I think a lot of the answers that come back are, I don't know.
And the answer from us always come back. In Grant we trust, and my didn't JG do a beautiful picture.
Yeah. But there are a bunch of other things that are coming out this year, whether they be tie-ins or whether they be other projects
Right.
that you got going on. What's got you excited outside of Final Crisis?
Well, we got Final Crisis running, and we have other things to really draw attention to the highlights of the DC universe. We have it's not really an event or concept, it's just a banner that we put our books called Sightings. When we put a banner of sightings on top of a comic, that means to really the casual fan and to the diehard DC fan, this is a book you should be looking at because we're setting up stories that's going to be playing out for a long time following this. We also have running side by side with the Final Crisis is the Dark Side Club. The Dark Side Club is actually a storyline and a bit that takes place in Final Crisis, but we actually took the concept and spun it out into events in Teen Titans and Birds of Prey. And you really don't have to read both to know the whole story, but you get a better picture when you read both. But the Dark Side Club is a big storyline for us involving all the metahuman teens in the DC universe. And then on top of that, naturally, we have Batman R.I.P., which is really got the real Firestone going for us. A lot of people trying to speculate what that means, and we won't give that one away either.
Of course. Now, there's been some rumors that bring a certain hero back, but in the past year, Hal Jordan came back with Rebirth. You're seeing some other heroes from the past really step up to the front again.
Mm-hmm.
My first DC comic ever was the first issue that Kyle Rayner appeared in.
Really? Okay.
Met Ron Mars, got him to sign it in a little shop in Orlando, Florida, when I think I was 12 or 13 at the time. What excites you most about bringing those old characters back? And I got to say that the writers and the artists have done such a great job, because for someone like me who's really a Kyle fan, to fall in love with Hal like I did over that series really took some care, because that was a new generation of
Sure. And it's interesting because when you look at characters like Hal, we're beating around the bush, but characters like Barry Allen, here's characters that have been gone off the slate for a period of time. They were created in the 1950s, early 60s, yet they're still endearing and people still remember them and still talk about them to date. So there must be something really good, intrinsically strong about them. And our goal was to go back and look at them again and examine them pretty closely and say whether or not we thought there was any real value to the DC universe as a whole in order to bring those characters back. It wasn't to take anything away from Kyle, wasn't to take anything away from John Stewart or Guy Gardner or any of the other characters out there. But when we brought Hal back, we said he had his own personality. He was his own distinct personality, and we wanted to put him back forefront and the stories that we felt really could play to today's audience. And Jeff's done an amazing job putting that all together. And now that as we look at the Flashes, we feel the same way. It's not to take one Flash away and replace it with another. It's really to show the strength of the whole line and the diversity of types of characters that fill that role of the Flash.
Now, you have an amazing stable of writers. You mentioned Jeff, and you have Gail on Wonder Woman right now. Who's a fellow HeroClix player.
Okay.
But you have an amazing stable of writers, and not that you guys need any help, because it feels like the writers that you guys have really care about the characters and not about writing the story they want to write. They write the stories that seem like they fit with the characters over at DC. But if you could grab one writer and bring him in, doesn't matter if he's in comics already or if he's not, who would you want to pull?
You know what? We always get those hypothetical questions, and you know what? If we were playing cards right now, I'd like to stand pat with the cards in my hand. I'm pretty happy with what we've drawn and what we're playing with. You know, we have Jeff and Grant really driving so much of the DC universe. We have Gail and Greg Rucker also involved in a lot that's going on. We've got Bill Willingham working for us. We've got Judd Winnick working for us. We've got a lot of great folks working for us. And you know what? And I could go on and on about it. And we're always looking at new talent. We're always looking to bring people in. You know, I'm forgetting about it too. I've got Brad Meltzer working for us. And we do have one or two other surprises coming down the pipeline. But the main thing for us is to make the monthly books as strong as possible with the people who understand the characters best. And I don't think since I've been here at DC we've had a better chance to really push the DC universe forward because of the strengths of the people who are on the key titles, the lead titles. You know, again, Dwayne McDuffie, James Robinson. The list goes on and on of guys who really are just in their own rights, just real strong, dynamic creators, and now we have them all working under one roof.
Now you mentioned TV earlier. Outside of comics, do you have time with your job to watch any TV? You got time to go to the movies ever? You know, just take a night off and go and enjoy something? And if so, what do you look forward to? Or what are you really into?
You know, we always love to go to a movie or something like that, just sit back and relax, and it gives us something to talk about separate than it. And you know what? When we see our movies, we also see what's the pulse on pop culture today, what's really breaking, what's big, what people are reacting to. And if we're smart, and hopefully on occasion we are smart, we're able to take whatever the tone of the room is or the tone of the country is and be able to incorporate it in us so we feel contemporary. Similar to what we're doing right now, one of the more interesting stories we're doing is a book called DCU Decisions, which is basically examining the election process in the DC universe, where actual heroes will be making judgments and basing their actions about what the political affiliation is, which is kind of interesting. You know, a lot of people are struggling with this whole concept, and they worry about the level of realism that it brings to the storytelling. But I can tell you right now that it's an action story first, but it really adds more depth to our characters than anything else.
Okay. Last thing, outside of the con as well, and outside of the world of comics. Sports fan. I hear rumors that you're a pretty big sports fan.
I'm a big Mets fan. That's where it is. I said, normally I was just joking before. I said, you know, normally whenever I go into a city, and we were just in Seattle a couple of weeks ago, and I got one of the old throwback Mariners hats. I had a friend of mine who works for the Mariners there. But I just couldn't wear a Phillies hat here because of the Mets, man. I'm sorry about that, guys. I just couldn't do it. So I figured University of Maryland was close enough.
You can't do that. You can't go up the coast. You can't wear a Phillies hat. It just doesn't work. I'm a Rangers fan. A couple of years ago, I was here, and the Phillies were in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah.
And there was so much orange and black walking around. And I was like, if I put on any red, white, and blue,
you can't do it.
I'm in trouble.
Oh no.
But are you surprised with baseball this year? Who's in first?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you knew what happened, but because of as they called it, Sports Illustrated did an issue which is called the Bizarro Baseball Season, about how it was back and up and over. And actually, we got one of our artists, Mark Bagley, to do the cover of Sports Illustrated, featuring the Rays and the Yankees. You know, where the Rays are definitely in the stronger position than the Yankees, with Bizarro watching on. So it is a strange situation. I'm a huge baseball fan, so I love watching it. And like I said, everybody keeps going to me, oh, but how do you feel about the Mets this year? Well, listen, here's the way I see it. They were first place all last year, and they collapsed at the bottom. So nothing's decided until the end of the year. So I'm still feeling good about everybody's chances.
All right. Well, after the con's done, take a much needed break. Go see a Mets game. See a movie.
That's where
go see Speed Racer, and shameless self plug.
Absolutely. That's okay.
Hey, man, but seriously, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks a lot. Now.